Hey friends, on today's I Wonder, we are going to answer the question, I wonder what's next. So welcome. Thank you for listening. I want to give you a little bit of background to tell you what's going on. So this podcast started 5 years ago. In January of 2020, I set up my little microphone in a hotel room in Miami because I was traveling with my husband for his work involved with the Super Bowl at the time. And so we were down in Miami for the Super Bowl in 2020, January of 2020. And I got a microphone for Christmas. I brought the camera, I brought the microphone, I brought the whole setup, and I started podcasting from a hotel room in Miami. And then 2 months later, as you all know, the global pandemic happened. And it was then that I started a few more interviews on the podcast and some of myself on the podcast. And the whole point of the podcast from the very beginning has been to sort of say the quiet parts out loud, to discuss the things that no one else is discussing, to have conversations on topics that sometimes we shy away from. That's always been the plan. No matter what this podcast looked like, no matter what the iteration, no matter what the title, it's always been with a focus on bringing light into the dark corners of where we are, whether that's parenting or whether that's trauma or whether that's taking care of ourselves in a world where we're expected to be the caregivers. My point was always to bring conversations out into the open that we weren't having already. We did some episodes about grief. We did some episodes about trauma. We've done episodes on parenting. We've done episodes on whether your parents are showing up for you in a way they need to or not, boundaries and self-care and all of the topics that we don't necessarily dive into in our worlds because we're too busy running around trying to take care of everybody else. That's always been my mission, to help you take care of yourself, because I know you're busy taking care of everybody else. So at the end of 2024, I had a conversation with my producer and I was like, I really think we do better. Quite honestly, we reach more people on video. So let's kind of do a little more YouTube. I'll keep recording these podcasts. I'll keep bringing the topics out. I'll keep getting guests to come in and speak to us, but we're going to do it more of a format of let's talk about things in video and put them on YouTube and really kind of bring people to that channel. So I didn't want to abandon my podcasters. I'm a huge podcast listener myself, but I recognize from the back end, looking at traffic and things, that more people were on YouTube than they were on listening to the podcast. So we decided at the end of 2024 to take a different turn in 2025. Not necessarily in the content, actually not at all in the content. The content was still like, let's bring out ways to help ourselves, to feel better, to take care of ourselves in a world that isn't really looking out for us. But, with more of a lean toward video. So we planned out a whole year. We planned out the whole of 2025 topics and themes and what we thought was relevant based on what we've been hearing from our listeners. And I recorded the January episodes, all the ones you've been listening to. I recorded those in December, right before we all sort of took off a couple weeks for the holiday. I recorded a bunch of episodes on sleep and rest and taking care of ourselves in that way, and sort of that slow beginning to your New Year's. There was lots of clips you might have seen on social media about resolutions and how those resolutions should be serving us instead of, making us feel bad about ourselves. And that was the plan. The start there. We were going to talk in February about wintering and how we sort of adjust to the seasons. And then I had some things for March and April too. And then I had a slow start myself to January. I thought I'm going to practice what I preach a little bit and just kind of get into the new year slowly. So I didn't record anything in January for the first couple of weeks because I thought, I'll have 2 weeks at the end of January. I'll record everything I need to for February. And, I'll stay about a month ahead of everything. And then January 20th happened here in the United States, which was the inauguration of our current president. And I was going to say the 21st, but quite frankly, it was like the night of the 20th, like literally all hell broke loose. And there were a million announcements made and a million executive orders and a million. Also in the interim, Los Angeles was burning literally. And it just felt like this hose of information and hose of changes and hose of trauma was being released on this country and quite frankly, around the world. And it was wildly overwhelming. And I had forgotten that the last time this happened with him too, where it's just announcement after announcement after announcement after announcement that has everybody sort of petrified, while quietly over here, they're doing real damage. That's just how it worked last time. It's clearly how it's going to work this time. The difference is there don't seem to be any guardrails on this president this time. It seems to be he's able to do whatever he wants, and all the people that work for him do what he wants. And we have a private citizen who's, wreaking havoc with our systems, and nobody elected him. He wasn't even officially appointed in any capacity. He went through no background checks, whatever. I could go on and on and on. I'm not going to, though, because I'm only telling you all that to tell you I have spent 5 years talking to you about how to take care of ourselves, how to tune in, how to rest, how to recover, how to make sure you're fortified for the fights ahead. And I came up against the need to do that for myself in the month of January. So one thing I did, which is kind of what I always do, is I returned to the keyboard. I am a writer by nature. I'm a writer by birth, basically. And whenever I'm in times of overwhelm or turmoil, or just even what's happening right now, the sort of exterior chaos, I am helped by researching and writing. And so my newsletter has turned into much more informational, much more, almost like I'm doing some of the work so you don't have to bring some clarity and some peace and some calm to these otherwise chaotic days. That is both wonderful and also time consuming. And quite honestly, the thought of coming on here week in and week out and talking about whatever that isn't the current state of our government and services just doesn't feel aligned for me right now. It doesn't feel aligned for me to come on here and be like, let's talk about parenting, or let's talk about, I don't know, whatever I've been talking about, stress, anxiety, all of that, the things that we're actually feeling. It just feels misaligned right now for me to be doing it as if there's nothing else going on in the world. And also, I don't necessarily feel like I'm the expert that should be on here talking about what's going on in the world right now, because I am not. I'm not a political pundit. I'm not a constitutional law expert. I'm not any of those things. So it feels also disingenuous for me to get on here and speak of those things. So all of this is to say, I'm going to take a beat and practice what I preach and take a pause for hopefully just the month of February. It's a short month. There's plenty of other ways to find me and see me during that month. But as far as the podcast, it's going to be, go back to the archives and listen to some of your favorites, because they're all still going to be there. It's just there won't be new episodes every week for a few weeks. If it looks like I get to the end of February and realize this podcast's time has come to be done, I'll come back on and tell you. Don't unsubscribe. Don't go away forever, because I don't intend to. My thought is, let me take a break in the month of February. Let me reassess exactly where we're going with this, and let me really rest and fortify and gain that strength and momentum I need to go on with the fight, however the fight looks, whether it's weekly YouTube videos or, on Instagram and TikTok right now. I'm basically just doing whatever I can to spread joy, because I feel like that, that joy is resistance, and we need it. We need it in our lives. Some funniness, some lightness, some, puppy pictures, things like that. So that's sort of my mission over on socials, is that joy. Like I said, my mission in my newsletter is a bit of both, is some information for clarity's sake, some places you can go to do things, because action is the antidote to anxiety. So can you go and do? And here's some places I found for you to go and do. And then some joy, some self-care, some humor, some things that are meant solely to nourish your soul. If you have any interest in that, if that's what you've been coming here for, then please, in the show notes will be a link to go sign up for my newsletter. If you're not already getting it, please go sign up for that now. I've examined Substack. I've examined all kinds of other ways to give that information to you. You know that my history is that of a blogger. Like, again, my gut reaction is to get online and start writing. But I just felt like the more closed we could keep things right now, the more our community could be safe and offline, the better. So I'm sticking with good old email newsletters for right now. And I'm running concurrently these groups, and this community, our Women of Wonder community, still exists. And it's not on Facebook and it's not on Instagram. It's on a private platform that just our group members have access to. So we're not privy to any algorithms. We're not beholden to, tech bros. We are just on our own in our community there. I'll put information in the show notes about that too. So there are still ways to hear from me if that's your choosing. And there are still ways to work with me if that's your choosing. You can sign up for the newsletter, join our Women of Wonder community. You can keep an eye out for groups. Currently, we're about to start tomorrow a group called Wintering, where a bunch of women are going to gather and just figure out how we get through these dark days of winter together. And I'll run another one for parents of teens. As I do, I'll run another one in the summer, probably late summer for transition into the school year. I tend to run 4 and 5 week groups, and then those people become a member of the Women of Wonder community. And so we just have this beautiful, rich tapestry of people that gather in a place that is not public, but is private and shared and safe for us in our community. So those are ways to work with me, continue to hear from me. I'll put all those in the show notes so you can sign up for any and all of them if you want. And then keep checking back. Like I said, don't unsubscribe. The feed is just going to go a little quiet for a bit. Maybe we'll put some replays up, but I'm not even going to tax my producer with that kind of stuff. If he feels like doing it, great. But if not, then we're just going to say, take the next few weeks and dig into some archives, go find some feel good ones, or we have some great episodes on grief and raising sensitive children and taking care of yourself as a mom, even if you're taking care of everybody else. And we've done some wonderful episodes that I'm really proud of over the last 5 years. So go back in and find those if you are new here and are wanting to listen to some more. Okay, that's it. It's a short one today because I need to practice what I have been preaching to all of you, which is rest, recovery, a little quiet time to tune in and figure out what is the best way forward for me. I promise you I'm not going away, and I promise you I'm not retreating. I'm just taking a pause so that I can reassess and come back stronger and more helpful than I even was before. If you have any questions, if there's any topic you want to see me cover, if there's anything you're dying to hear, send me an email at that same email address I'm always telling you guys about, which is just critzking@wonderinkwellness.com. And I will add it to all my list of things that I have planned out for the year, because we're still going to do them in some capacity. We just have to figure out how. In the meantime, you can go subscribe to the YouTube channel and you'll get notifications when I post new things. Sometimes they're just going to be shorts. They might not be a full long episodes like this, but they'll be, informative and helpful and joyful and all of the things that they've always been so far. We started this podcast 5 years ago in order to bring light to the dark corners. And man, that feels like it's maybe even more necessary now than it ever has been. And I'm going to be here for it. I just need a few weeks to figure out how. So thanks for listening. Hang in there. We're coming back. I promise. And until next time, stay curious. It's the only thing that's going to save us all.